please feel free to help yourself. Just leave me a piece of pecan pie if you can. Do what? This table over here, by the way, you guys gotta watch them. They know what they're doing. Well, now that you've had a dinner and you're throwing your stuff away, and if you do want seconds, please go back and get those. And again, thank you to the barbecue coach, D&H Barbecue. That was fabulous. I want to introduce Mr. Garland Hart. And he does have a great bio, but it is interwoven into his presentation this evening, so I am going to say 3 sentences. He was born in Abingdon, Virginia. You'll be tested on this, by the way. We've said that, right? And he is
a lot of testing.
It is a lot of testing.
You do a lot of testing.
I do. It's all fun and games. He started playing the fife when he was 12 years old. And I am most proud that the third thing I'm going to say is he is recently retired and enjoying life. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Garland Hart.
Is this thing on?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
What'd you say? Well, I'm glad to be here. It's good to see everybody here today. How many of you have heard of fife before? Wow, that's great. How many of you can play the fife? Anyone else besides me? So we don't want to have to do it up here. I was born in 1956. My dad was a pastor, and he had a pastor in Maryland from 1964 to 68. And when I lived in Maryland, I learned how to play the flute in school. And then in 1968, we moved to Williamsburg, Virginia. He was pastor of the Jamestown Presbyterian Church. And while we were there, I joined the Colonial Williamsburg Fife and Drum Corps. And I learned how to play the fife. Very similar to the flute. You hold it about the same way, and you play it. And so I was very pleased to learn this. I played it, and when I went off to the college at Wake Forest University.
Go away.
Go away. Are you alumni too?
I am.
Okay.
68.
I graduated in 78. So, how about that? I joined a group out of Charlotte that did reenacting the 6th North Carolina Continental Line. And they're going to be involved in the Battle of Camden in November. And I've signed up to be a part of that. But the fife is a very instrumental idea. And I'm going to play some tunes for you. And we'll see how we go. When I joined the group in Charlotte, I had to have a uniform. And so the coat up here is mine that I wore, because that was back over 40 years ago. You can imagine that I grew out of it. So I can't put it on, I can barely get it on my arms. But that was okay. So I'm not dressed up like I usually am when I was much younger and not quite as big. Let me play another song. How many here play an instrument of any sort? Oh, great. Why didn't you bring it tonight? You could have had an orchestra here. The next song I'm going to play is called The World Turned Upside Down. And it's been thought to have been the song that was played at the surrender of Lord Cornwallis in Yorktown. When I was part of the group, I started after I graduated from Wake Forest in 1978. What's so special about 1981? Does anyone know?
Cow pens.
Pardon?
Cow pens.
Cow pens? Okay. In 1981. 81. Is there anybody think that's significant? What happened in 1781? Right, the 200th anniversary of the surrender of Lord Cornwallis in Yorktown. Well, our regiment went up there, our group went up there in 1981 to Yorktown. And we marched, those that participated that wanted to, marched from Williamsburg to Yorktown. It's about 10 to 15 miles. And then we camped there on the site, and then we did the actual surrender. But President Ronald Reagan was there, and he had a part in the ceremony. So I'm going to play the song that they think that was played, they don't know for sure, was The World Turned Upside Down, because for the British, it was turned upside down. Pardon? Oh, huzzah, okay. You don't have a microphone, so I couldn't hear you. Huzzah, that's right. What was I playing?
Well, yeah, what was that?
I'm trying to think. What was that? I played Welcome Here Again. I played Yankee Doodle. I played Seven Stars, I think I played. And maybe that was British Grenadiers.
Oh, okay.
Can you play?
I tried, I could never get a note out of the thing.
Oh, you did? Let me show you another fight. This is one I made out of bamboo. I drilled the holes in it, and I drilled the mouthpiece right where there was a section, so I didn't have to worry about covering up the space between the center of where the mouthpiece is. It was free, I didn't have to pay for it. I made it myself. think I made a few others, but this is the one that did the best as far as sounding. Because you have to measure the holes in the mouthpiece. Some other things I want to share about the fifing in that day. The fife and drum wore the red coats. You might think that was what the British wore, which they did. But in some way, the units had to know where the positions were, fifers and drummers, because they were responsible for directing the movement of the troops. Advance, retreat, stay still. And also in the morning, they played Reveille, which was a song, I don't remember that right now, but that was a song for people to get up and get ready to go to battle whenever that was necessary. So the fifers and drummers were essential for the troops. Essential. And you can imagine being on the battlefield. What would you hear on the battlefield? Gunfire, cannon fire. And you can imagine it was very, very loud. And so the commanders couldn't give orders verbally because no one would be able to hear it. So the commanders would call on the fifers and drummers to play something that would signal what they were going to do. And so that's why they were very important. They were communication between the commanders and the troops. And so they were very, very important. Also, you can imagine being a soldier during that day in a campsite, away from family, away from friends and children. But the fifers and drummers were also an inspiration for the troops. Hear them playing, hear the drummers playing and the fifers playing. It was very important to keep the morale of the troops. So you can imagine if the fifers and drummers did exist, that would be a detrimental thing for the troops. And so that's why they were very important in that day.
Targets too.
Pardon?
Were the fifers?
They marched behind the troops. So I imagine they could be targets in some way. They didn't have any musket or something to shoot because they had the drummers and the fifes. So, right. Also, because they had red coats on, the British might have thought they were British. So they stayed away from them. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But the fifers and drummers would march behind the troops. Is that you? I heard some knocking on something, but that was okay. Does anyone here have any other questions that might be important to answer? I might know, hopefully.
How old were the fifers?
How old were they? That's a good question. I would imagine they're probably in their teens, perhaps. The youngest maybe in their 20s. Yes, sir.
When you were in the drum and bugle corps, are all the fights the same, or different kinds of fights?
The fighters were pretty much the same. The music sometimes would have a part one, part two. Like some people would do the part one and others do part two. Different notes would, and then of course the drums would come in. But yeah, that's important. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How well documented are the fifers and drummers at various battles? For example, someone mentioned cow pits a while ago. We know that one of the pivotal moments in that battle was kind of a mistake with the orders. And I wonder if it's possible, or is it documented, did they have drummers, did they have fifers, or what have you?
I'm not sure about that, but I would imagine they probably did. Like I said, if you didn't have fifers and drummers in a unit, you were very, very detrimental to the unit.
For the Continental Line, wherever they documented the units, they documented the drummers and the fifers too. So they are named, you can look them up, but of course not all of them, but
Oh, good.
a good 90% of them are named.
We have records, pretty much with all the regiments. A standard regiment is going to have at least 15 drummers and about 10 fifers. I know the second regiment's in our early book, how many total we have. Under the commander is a drum major. There's a fife major. So for us to communicate in the field, tell the drum major, tell the brigade to advance. So he would tell his 15 drummers, who's going to tell the other 15 drummers. So now you have 30 to 100 drummers all beating the same command. Generally on the field, what the fifes would do is they became letter bearers. Because it's really hard to hear them actually fight. They will lead the troops in the battle, they'll motivate them, but once they got into action, it was more the drums. But the fifers also played a key role as they helped to evacuate the injury off the field, give them service. Those were in the orderly books, a lot of units. And a claim to fame was not only stack of arms that you captured, how many drums. You can deny the enemy 15, 30, 40 drums. You just did a big hit on them. That's a big thing they would record as victories.
Yes, sir.
I know there are many reenactors in here besides myself, but I can tell you from within the ranks, having a fife and drum corps played while you march is definitely inspirational.
Sure.
And it's much better without just silence.
All right. Yes, sir.
Speaking of documentation, there is a drum major that goes to Francis Marion. He was an African-American named Jim Capers. Capers was wounded at the Battle of Camden. Later on, he was joined Marion, and at Utah Springs, the drummer in front of Capers was shot and killed, and the same round wounded Capers. According to his pension statement, Capers also wound up at Yorktown for the surrender there. So he was a very well-traveled individual.
Very good. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to be at the Battle of Camden coming up in November?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
What are you going to do? Are you going to play the fife?
I'm going to be with my unit that I participate some, but see, as a pastor, what day of the week is most important for my time? Sunday, to worship. So I really haven't been active with them after I graduated from seminary. I did participate with them last year for the Camden Battle. So I'm registered, and so they're expecting me to be there this year too.
Well, we could always use a chaplain for service on Sunday.
That's right.
We can, huh?
Yeah, you can have a service right there.
Were you with the 6th North Carolina?
Yes. Yes, 6 North Carolina, Continental Line. Yes, sir.
What is the difficulty in learning to play?
I'm sorry, what about?
What is the difficulty in learning to play the fife?
One difficulty is putting your mouth on the mouthpiece. The edge of your tongue, the edge of your lip goes right at the edge of the mouthpiece. And then learning the notes and blowing air across it. So those are the main points. If you can master those, you master the fife.
Yeah, you don't actually blow into it.
You blow across it.
You blow across it.
Yeah, and some goes inside, but
Yeah.
most of it goes
That's
across
the trick.
So how long did it take you, to become proficient to join the ranks in the march?
Since I joined the unit, I'd already been in the fife and drum corps at Williamsburg for 6 years. So I was pretty proficient on the fife.
How long did it take you to get that proficient in Williamsburg? Because I know they're pretty stringent.
Yeah, probably within a year or two.
Okay.
At least a year, I'd say. Because you have to memorize everything you played out there.
You can get plenty of drummers, but not many fighters.
So what unit are you with?
Second South Carolina.
Second South Carolina? Okay.
I have one more question. So how many songs would a fife player have to know? How many?
That's a good question.
How many do you have to know?
Well, being as I'm up in years, I'm 66, and I haven't been playing the fife every day. And so I started a few days ago to play remember a few songs or whatever. But for those that actually play in Williamsburg, you have to know a good number of them. And the different ranks you go through, private and so forth. I don't know exactly how many, but it's probably up there.
And weren't the fifers much younger boys?
They were the most, yeah.
And drummers as well? Were
Yeah.
really just young teenagers?
Teenagers, yeah.
Now, did you have to learn the, I don't want to say enemy, but the other side songs as well?
We learned a few of them, I would imagine, yes.
Grenadiers March?
Yeah.
Were the commands similar to the British Army as they were in the American Army?
I would imagine they were similar, yes.
Yeah. That could lead to some confusion.
Did you learn the commands as well, or movements on the battlefield?
We really didn't play much of that. Mainly just, we played when we were marching. That was important when we were marching. And during the battlefield or whatever, we didn't play a whole lot when we were actually fighting. But the drummers would play and keep peace. Yes, sir.
Garland, what's the most patriotic town in South Carolina you could possibly live in?
Most patriotic town. You want me to say Camden, don't you?
No! Where are you from?
Born and raised in Virginia.
No. Where do you live now?
I live in Liberty Hill.
That's what I wanted to hear.
But Liberty Hill's not even a town. The only thing they have there public-wise is a post office. And you can't even get your mail delivered to your house. You have to have a post office box, which for those that live there is free. You don't have to pay for it.
Well, we in Camden do truly hope. I know it's a long, arduous journey, but we hope you do make it the second weekend of November.
Well, I'm planning on being there.
Does everybody know how far away you are from Camden?
It's about 18, 20 miles, yeah. I'm not going to march there. I'm going to drive there.
We'll come get you.
What was that?
We'll come get you.
You'll come get me, huh? You'll march up there for me, right?
We'll come get you.
I take it it's predestined that you'll be there then.
No, I plan to be there.
At least on Saturday.
Are you at Presbyterian Church in Liberty Hill?
I was there, yes.
Oh, okay.
I was there for 3 years.
Okay. I live in East Springs.
Oh, I know what that is. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Well, to a previous question, I didn't hear the full exchange, but I think someone asked you if both sides, both armies, opposing armies, might use the same songs, tunes, whatever, for the same commands. I think somebody asked that question. And then I think after you answered it, somebody made some comment about would that cause confusion. I guess I think the answer to that.
Yeah, well, he mentioned about it. It would probably cause a lot of confusion.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if all the historians in the room have read it out so that.
But I think you could probably tell where it's coming from, where the beating was coming from, whether in yours or someone else's. So if you heard it from somewhere else, you probably would ignore it.
They did use the same drum commands, because we all learned it from the same book.
Right.
So there is a drum command for everything we do on the field with the brigades, but the drums are behind the lines.
Behind the line, right.
So, yeah, they're not going to get that with all the musketry going on in front of them. They're not going to hear what the opposing side is going to say, but we use the same drum commands.
Right.
The confusion just comes from the standard fog and friction of war, back, people not following orders and things falling apart. That's normal.
Yes, sir.
Were there any other instruments that were used in addition to the fife and drum?
That's all I remember being used.
Well, they did have a whistle. I don't know how those commands had to be very simple. Right, Eric? They had the sergeant would have a whistle.
Yes. The NCOs would actually have a whistle, and they use whistle commands. All the light infantry would also carry whistle commands. The ones were different were the German Jaegers. They would actually have bugles. And their commands were bugles. So Queen's Rangers used bugles. The Legion had bugles. But for the most part, the rest was relied on the pipe drums.
Mountain troops would have bugles.
Yeah, mountain troops had bugles.
Also,
Yeah,
in the
light
light
whistle.
infantry, we use French horn.
Anyone else have any questions?
Okay, I learned 5 things I didn't know that you'll be tested on. I'm totally kidding. She just gave me a look. It is fascinating, though. I mean, I would love to have been in a reenactment where they were using the fife and drums to call the movements. So that's the smells, the sounds. It's just all incredibly fascinating to me. It's also,
Come to camp.
well, I'll be there without a fife on. And I do play the piano, but that was really hard. It was, yeah, I wasn't getting the piano in the car at all. But, and it's been a lot of fun sitting over in the corner watching everybody and the interactions. But I have to say the most attentive folks in the room right now are these 2 guys up here. So please come up and visit with them at some point in time. And thank you for those folks that brought them. I love it. It's absolutely fabulous. I know that the DAR and the SAR and the SR like to take pictures. If you guys want to go ahead and do that before Carol and I wrap up the evening. Am I correct, Carol?
If all the DAR ladies would like to come so we can have a quick photo op, and while they're coming forward, would you please raise your hand if you're a Vietnam vet and you have not received a DAR pin? The DAR has had a project going for over 5 years, right, Peggy, to recognize all of Vietnam vets, and we have, at these occasions, recognized many in the past years, and I just want to be sure that everyone has been covered and recognized and thanked. Is there anyone here who has not already gotten a DAR pin? I would like to meet you and shake your hands. Okay, good, good. Two more, good. If you would please come forward, and if the DAR ladies would get over here to the side, they can have their photo made next. We'll come